Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you stopping by, taking a look at my video here. As you guys know, we are in the Champions Chess Tour, and it is the Airthings Masters. So it's the second event of the chess tour. You guys know we had the Skilling Open before, covered some games on that. And so the game I have for you guys today is Anish Giri versus Wesley So. And as always, at the end of the video, I have the answer to the previous chess puzzle, and I have a brand new chess puzzle for you die-hard, gotta have it chess fans out there. But as always, if you enjoy my content, please make sure to subscribe. I'm trying to get to my 1,000. So I appreciate everybody who's been watching my stuff so far, who's been subscribing, all of the people randomly coming across my videos, Uber riders, just anybody out there in the YouTube world. It's very much appreciated, and salamat as always to my people from the Philippines. Much appreciated. But if you guys are ready, I'm ready. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what we have for this game. All right, so we have knight to f3. And we have d5. And we have g3. So knight comes to f6. We got bishop to g2. e6. All right, so we have castles for white. So starting off, we have the King's Indian attack. And so we have bishop to e7, we have c4. And now we've transposed over into English Neo-Catalan. And as you guys know, this is actually not specifically this variation, but the Catalan is a very big favorite of Wesley So. So it's kind of interesting when somebody plays that same type of idea or opening against him. And it's just as interesting if he does defeat the person playing it. So it's kind of like a little exclam, like, hey, you know, you can't play my stuff against me and win. So we'll see how Wesley So takes care of this here. And so we have castles for black, and we have b3. So we got kind of like a little double fianchetto type of setup here. Definitely hyper modern. And so we see c5, just making sure that white doesn't have the ability to expand and get any type of space going. And so we see pawn takes d5, knight takes d5, we have knight to c3, we have knight to c6, we have bishop to b2. Now this move is very important, knight to c6, because you definitely don't want to just, you know, capture immediately, you know, because you have to be kind of paying attention to the fact that, you know, once this knight moves somewhere, even if it goes like kind of to e5 or something, you know, this bishop has a good scope. And sometimes it can make it kind of hard for you to develop your piece. You develop your queen side, so you definitely don't want that bishop, you know, tying everything down on that queen side. So it's nice to see knight to c6 first. And so we see knight takes c3. We have bishop takes c3, and we see queen to c7. And so we have queen to b1. Now this is the novelty of the game, but it is a very rare move. There's only, it showed one move in the database, but, or one game in the database, but it was showing as I went another move further, that there were actually 2 games in the database. And so, it's pretty rare idea to play. So Giri definitely prepared this, and, we saw, e5, come from Wesley So, pretty immediately. So Wesley So was, you know, very well prepared for this, this opening idea. And e5 is the very top move of the position. And so let me see, we have e3 by Anish Giri. Now backing up here, the biggest idea that you've seen once the queen does come to b1 for this is going to be queen to e4. And it kind of seems like when you go queen to b1, that's the thing you're thinking about, trying to centralize the queen. Because as you guys can see, with the queen sitting right here, I mean, you can bring it to c2 to centralize it. But, you know, b1 kind of, you know, makes it seem like maybe you might be doing something else with it. But yeah, like I said, the 2 games that I saw in the database, queen e4 was played. And then you definitely don't want to go f5 first, because the queen can always kind of sidestep and check the king. So you always have to be careful when you're opening up your king with f-pawn movements. You know, I played plenty of games where, you know, that was an issue. And so, you know, you would see something probably like f6, and then after knight to h4, you might see f5 then. But like I said before, you know, you have the ability to move the queen and check the king, so you can always sidestep with the queen. So those were the ideas that were played in the other games. But going back to what we had, like I said, we did have e3, and e3 is the novelty of the game. So this is the first time, make sure I'm clear here. Yeah. So this is the first time this was actually seen. So it's not a bad move at all. It's definitely trying to prepare like a d4 situation, you know. And so we see f5 from So, and you know, it's pretty clear, you know, with the queen not having any influence, or the bishop not having any influence on this diagonal here, it's a lot safer for you to open up your king with an F movement. Also, you know, you're trying to gain as much space as possible and give your pieces, you know, the best possibility of coming out and just influencing as much of the board as possible. So we see rook to c1. You know, of course, if at some point we see like a d4 and some trades, this knight is kind of pinned down. So we see bishop to e6. And as you guys can see, compared to when we had back here when we had f5, this position is not that great for black. You know, because you do have a situation where, you know, this piece isn't being used, this piece is undeveloped, and you do kind of have your king open a little bit. So going to the position that we have right here, as you can see for black, this is a much better position. And so we see queen to b2, you know, trying to put as much pressure on this e5 pawn as possible here. We got the knight come in and we got the queen x-raying through. Not with that arrow, but, you know, with a similar situation. And so we see bishop to f6. And so we see knight down to e1, and we see rook a to d8, and we got d3. And as you can kind of already start to tell, you know, white is in like a very passive position. You know, they kind of have all their pieces kind of bunched up here on you know, the back rank, or the second rank, and they're making like really defensive moves. So I mean, this d2 move, or this d3 move, was just kind of to be able to defend that pawn here. And so we see bishop to d5. You know, so a lot of times when you're playing your games, you want to try to make sure you're paying attention to, you know, what type of pieces, what type of strong pieces your opponents have. And the best, you know, one of the best things to do is to try to trade off one of their strongest pieces for one of your pieces, and weaken their position a little bit. So as you guys can see, you know, this bishop doesn't have a lot of scope, but this bishop does have a lot of scope. And so this is definitely going to be the better bishop out of the two. And so Wesley So's thinking that he wants to try to, you know, trade this bishop off to try to weaken black's defenses. And especially, you know, any of you guys that play like, you know, the white side of the Sicilian dragon, or any type of, you know, moderns or perts or something like that, you know that this bishop is defending this king very well. So you definitely want to get rid of it. So we see b4, bishop takes g2, king takes g2. We see pawn takes b4, bishop takes b4. We see rook to f7. So rook to f7 is making sure that we, you know, defend this queen, because it wasn't defended a second ago. But, you know, as you guys know, this knight is, it can't just go ahead and take this bishop, because it is pinned to the queen. It's not an absolute pin, but it is a relative pin. There's two different pins. So there's an absolute pin, which that means it's illegal to move the piece out of the way if the piece is pinned to the king. And then an absolute pin is something where it's like you really don't want to move the piece, because you're going to lose a much more valuable piece behind that piece. And so we see bishop coming back to c3, just adding more pressure onto this pawn here. And if you guys want to go ahead and stop the video to see if you can see how Wesley So is taking advantage of the very passive position that white has, go ahead and pause the video and see if you can see which one it is. And we'll catch up with you in a second. All right, cool. So for those of you that found the f4, it's a very nice idea, because what you're trying to do is you've already eliminated the bishop from the defense of the king. And now what you're trying to do is you're trying to break down this structure that white has established in front of its king. So you're basically trying to strip, you know, all of white's defenses away from this king as much as possible. And so, you know, the best possible move in the position for white is going to be e takes f4. But as you guys can see, this isolates this pawn. It makes it very, very hard to push. The other alternative, so of course, after e takes f4, we have, you know, pawn takes f4. You know, you're looking at stuff like pawn takes here. You're going to try to like double rooks and stuff like that. So you can see that the white king is getting very, you know, very vulnerable to, you know, black's attacks. The only other thing in this particular situation after f4 would be possibly trying to push e4, just trying to stop everything from going on. But after, you know, pawn takes d3, h takes d3, you'd see rook d to f8. As you guys can see before, you know, these rooks are, you know, beautifully doubled on this open f file. And white's king is completely safe because there is no light square bishop, because black, you know, eliminated that bishop. So it's all good. But like I said, we do have e takes f4, rook a to b1, bishop takes c3. queen takes c3, and we have queen to d7, just sidestepping any any possible pins that might be coming on the c file here. And so we see queen to c5, and I have to be honest with you, when I saw queen to c5, I'm not really fully sure what queen to c5, what Giri's thought process was behind queen to c5. It's possible he was trying to maybe just kind of, defend this pawn here, but once these rooks double, the queen is not going to be a very good piece to be defending against it. So I was kind of thinking about like maybe a rook move, just trying to add a little bit of protection onto this pawn, because you definitely don't want a queen doing that against some rooks. But we do have knight to d4, and this is just a beautiful move, just centralizing that knight, making it a true octopus. Now, for those of you guys out there, you guys know that these knights sometimes are called octopus because they can defend or attack 8 different squares at a time. So if we just kind of draw the squares here, we would see that this knight is just beautifully just positioned, and it affects all of these 8 squares, defends and attacks. So going out here, we do have rook to c4, and we have f3 check. And it is actually in this position that that Anish Giri actually resigns. There is not anything left to do. The king is in a very bad mating net. The best possible move in the position is going to be king to g1, and after knight to e2, the king has to go to h1, and after queen to h3, you're looking at checkmate here. Looking at checkmate here. So you're going to need to you're going to need to eliminate this pawn with the knight takes here. And any other movement, if you do move king to f1, that's just an immediate check. And then after, you have to block with the knight because you're going to have the same, like I said, you're going to have the same situation here where you're going to move over, and then that's going to be a force mate automatically. Even king to h1, it's going to be the same thing. This queen, no matter what the situation, is going to come to h3, and that's going to be all she wrote for that. So like I said, that is the game, and that is from, I believe it was round 2. Let me see here. Round 3. So that was from round 3 of that. And so getting into these chess puzzles for you guys here, this was the puzzle that I gave you guys last time. I think that it was probably about close to a week ago, maybe 5-6 days ago, that I shot my last video. So this was you guys have been waiting a long time, and I apologize. Been busy. So as I said to you guys before, this is actually a decoy. So as you guys should be able to see in the position, that a very, very forcing move is a check, and the way you deliver that is with queen takes h7 with check. It forces the king to take on h7. There's no other moves. Well, there actually is move. There's a move. Oh no, there isn't a move over. No. Yeah, so king takes h7 is the only move. And then knight would take f6 with check. That would force the king down to h6. And so we would see knight e to g4 with check. The king would come down to g5. We'd see h4 with check. And then the king would come to f4. We'd see g3 with check. And then king to f3. Bishop to e2 with check. And then king to g2. Rook to h2 with check. And then it would force the king down to g1. And then we would see king to d2 with checkmate. With this rook here coming over and putting all kinds of hurt on this king. So as you can see, the king had to walk all the way down the board. Kind of funny. But to give you guys your next puzzle here, and I will give you the video probably in the next 45 minutes to an hour, because I'll be making another video here. This one is actually an interference. So for those of you who aren't familiar with what an interference actually is, what you're doing is you're trying to break the connection between either 2 pieces or a piece and a specific square. Sometimes you might throw a piece in the way to disconnect maybe 2 rooks, or disconnect a bishop from protecting a piece, or just trying to disconnect a piece from defending a specific square, or to even deflect the queen, or deflect whatever piece you want to try to get away from, whatever square is possible. So to give you guys a small hint, you guys should notice that there is a checkmate on f7. So your goal is to try to get a interference going, so that you can try to either place a check or deliver a checkmate on f7. So see if you guys can see if that's possible. And like I said, I will give you the answer in the next video. And I appreciate you guys stopping by and checking my stuff out. Subscribe and like, and give me some comments. Let me know how you like the the background. and let me know. I have 4 different ones that I'm going to be kind of just cycling through. So let me know if there are, if there's a specific one that you guys like from the video I made before, and I will make sure that I put that one up for you. But like I said, I appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. All right.